Good evening and welcome to Breaking Today News. Watching on Switch TV, I am Lincoln Ombogo. Our sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira. We have a lot in line for you tonight, but first, let's take a look at the headlines.
Coming up at 7 p.m. on Breaking Today.
ODM leader Raila Odinga begins his coastal tour as key allies pull apart.
Nachukua hiyo kinanda, unakamata watu wote, tunawapeleka kotini. Unaelewana? Hakuna mambo kama hayo, hakuna kitu inaitwa DISCO-MATANGA tena Trans Nzoia.
No more DISCO-MATANGA for Trans Nzoia residents, declares Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiangi.
Mimi kama Mkenya ningependelea kabisa ikuwe bure. Ningefurahi sana ikiwa bure.
And Kenyans pour out their expectations as the country prepares to receive its first batch of COVID-19 vaccines tomorrow. You can now watch your favorite programs on the following platforms: Signet Zuku Channel 53 or Azam Channel 338. You can also catch our episodes on our website www.switchtv.ke, Switch TV News YouTube channel, or download the Switch TV app on Google Play Store or the App Store. Send in your feedback to our SMS line 111 444 111 and Switch TV Kenya. Bahati Member of Parliament Kimani Ngunjiri's son KENYANS has succumbed to COVID-19 complications. The family confirmed that KENYANS died while receiving treatment at a hospital in Mombasa. KENYANS Ngunjiri was a businessman with a construction company based in the coast region. In his early life, he was a safari rally enthusiast who often took part in competitions in and outside the country. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children. Moving on, with the first batch of COVID-19 vaccines expected to arrive in the country tomorrow, Kenyans have poured out their expectations as the country prepares to receive more of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine. All frontline workers, including medical staff, security officers, teachers and persons with underlying conditions, will be the first to receive the shots. Take a look.
24 million COVID-19 doses are expected to arrive in Kenya tomorrow to kick off the first batch of vaccinations countrywide. With a 10% positivity rate, which is the highest recorded in the country, an alert for a third wave has kept temperatures high among Kenyans.
Siwezi sema kuwa ikuwe bure, lazima tu ikuwe na charges. Lakini mimi kama Mkenya ningependelea kabisa ikuwe bure. Ningefurahi sana ikiwa bure, such that hata Mkenya wa chini anaweza pata chanjo yenyewe.
Hii chanjo ya corona ikikuja tutapokea na tutafurahia. Na mimi kama mzee nitakuwa mmoja wa wale wa mbele nichukue hiyo ndio niwe kwa salama.
As cases surpass 100,000, first priority for the first batch of vaccines has been given to healthcare workers, frontline workers including security and teachers, vulnerable persons and groups, and those in the hospitality sector. Parents have raised concerns on the priority given to teachers, saying the risk of exposure is equal to learners.
Maoni yangu ni kwamba kuna ubaguzi katika hayo maamuzi ya serikali kugawanya watoto na walimu. Hali wote wanachanganyikana kila siku. Hakuna hewa anayevuta mwalimu ambaye mtoto asiyevuta. Kwa hivyo hilo ni kitu ambacho kinaonekana hakiandamani one thing na ubinadamu hata na utu pia. Naiona hiyo ni swali ambalo limeingiliwa kwa njia ya upande sana. Haistahili, haifai. Haina msaada wowote kwa watoto wetu. Wanaofaa kukingwa kama mwalimu anakingwa basi na mtoto mara moja. Maana mtoto atakapoenda nyumbani na wengi wao wako kwenye mashule ya boarding, basi shida ndio ile itarudia.
Walimu na watoto kupewa chanjo ni vizuri sana. Lakini swali ni, wakitoka nyumbani tutakuja tukae mix na wao. Hiyo chanjo iko na uwezo wa kuzuia either kama tumeambukizwa tusiwaambukize, ama ni chanjo tu unapewa upone yenye iko kwa mwili, lakini kuambukizwa bado unaweza ambukizwa. Hiyo ndio swali kubwa.
In phase 2 of the vaccination, which is set to kick off on July and end in June 2022, 9.7 million Kenyans are expected to be vaccinated. Hadia Mosiwa for Switch TV.
Thank you, Hadia Mosiwa. Raila Odinga has today begun his Coast Counties tour as key allies pull apart. Raila is expected to spend a week touring Taita Taveta, Mombasa, Kilifi, Kwale, Tana River and Lamu counties to popularize the Building Bridges initiative and reclaim lost political ground following frequent visits to the region by the Deputy President William Ruto. The DP was at the coast 3 weeks ago, buoyed by the support of ODM rebels, Kilifi Member of Parliament Owen Baya, Malindi's Aisha Jumo and a number of other MPs like Nyali's Muhammad Ali. Raila will tomorrow begin his coast tour in Taita Taveta County, where there were divisions among leaders on who would host him for the one-week tour. Elsewhere, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiangi has banned DISCO-MATANGA, claiming that they are to blame for teenage pregnancies in Trans Nzoia County. The CS directed the county police commander to confiscate music systems in such ceremonies, arrest the people present and present them in court. Matiangi tore through the age-old culture, saying it has affected the education of underage students in the county.
Shida ile tuko nayo pande hii ya Kitale, and that's why in Trans Nzoia we have these very alarming numbers. Ni mambo ya hii kitu inaitwa DISCO-MATANGA. Ti watoto wanaenda huko sijui kufanya nini. I'm told that the policy here is when someone has died, we must replace the deceased. Tunaenda huko to replace the deceased na watoto wetu, kucheza na watoto wetu. So tumekubaliana na county security team hapa, that thing is banned. Where is the county police commander? Where bana? There will be no DISCO-MATANGA in Trans Nzoia from now forever. Tumekubaliana. Mahali nafanyika unafika hapo, you know what we do kwa watu wa security. Nachukua hiyo kinanda, unakamata watu wote, tunawapeleka kotini. Unaelewana? Hakuna mambo kama hayo, hakuna kitu inaitwa DISCO-MATANGA tena Trans Nzoia. Tumekubaliana. This county now is actually leading the country in the number of teenage pregnancies amongst our children. We have 10,000 school-going kids here, you know, who have become pregnant, especially in the last 1 year during the long and unfortunate corona break. Now, the president has directed, and we have kept saying this. I told my colleagues who are here from the Ministry of Education, is now government policy. All those children have got to go to school. Whether or not they're expectant, they have to go to school, and teachers are going to work together with the leaders to ensure that we keep those children in school.
I hope when Tony Kolanda comes in, he'll explain more about DISCO-MATANGA. Over 1,500 families who settled at Septet camp after being evicted from the Mau forest have urged the national government and the Kenya Red Cross Society to look into their welfare. The evictees have expressed that since they were evicted, they have been unable to provide basic needs to their families who now face hunger and starvation. Majibu Kitsao narrates.
Poverty levels have risen, with families facing many challenges, including health-related challenges and lack of school fees for their children. According to Felix Kumoi, a students leader at Moi University, over 20 students who hail from the Mau complex were affected after the evictions were conducted in 2019. Kumoi has called on the government to at least support the communities that are affected following the conservation efforts by the national government.
On behalf of students and the entire large community, we want to appeal to leaders that wasifungie macho swala hii, wahakikisha kwamba wanafanya ile jambo wanayoweza kusaidia jamii ya hapa Septet.
Ololunga Ward MCA Jefferson Langat has urged the government to help the families who were evicted and pitched camp at Septet, Olmekenyo, Ngoben and Chebitet.
Ningependa pia kuomba serikali waendelee kuangalia wale watu ambao walitolewa kwa mahali wanasema ni msitu ya Mau. Especially wale wako Septet, wale wako Olmekenyo camp, wale wako Ngoben in Ololunga Ward, na wale wako Chebitet in Soko Ward.
Health concerns have increased, with women suffering the most as stillbirth cases continue being reported in the area. Children have also been falling sick, with families being unable to cater for their medication. Majibu Kitsao for Switch TV.
Thank you, Majibu Kitsao. Moving on, following tense political tensions being experienced in the country, our reporter Daniel Kariuki speaks to a political analyst who simplifies matters from the BBI victory in the county levels, its significance, and 2022 general elections.
It is at least 500 days to the August 8th, 2022 general elections and maybe 4 months to a probable referendum in the country. Political temperatures in the country continue to heighten. And for that matter, we'll be speaking to political analyst and youth leader Victor Kiprono, who helps us dissect these political matters and helps us understand if the BBI will be sailing through or not. And thank you, Victor, for making time for us. And my first question is, was the BBI enormous win in the county level anticipated?
Yes, the win was anticipated because we saw the two proponents, that is Raila and Uhuru Kenyatta. So we expected that win in the county levels. Following the Sagana meeting, it was obvious that it was going to sail through.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we saw Ruto making his first appearance after the BBI win in Baringo County. Was it a strategy or was it a coincidence that he went to Baringo, one of the counties that failed the BBI?
That was a coincidence, because William Ruto is the deputy president, and he moves every week, every other week, traversing this nation. So when he was in Baringo, most people will think politically that because Baringo had failed to pass BBI, it was politics. But to me, as a political analyst, it was a coincidence. And I know for sure William Ruto was there for a purpose, because it was a planned diary. So it was a plan for him to be there.
Okay, you've called that a coincidence. And was it a coincidence seeing Baringo Senator Gideon Moi reading that speech at State House?
Yeah, sure. You see, Gideon Moi has been on the forefront supporting the document. So Gideon Moi was in State House, not by accident, but he was there because he is one of those principles. And you see, Gideon Moi is the chairman of KANU, and he's the party leader. So he was in State House representing KANU and the people he represent as the party leader.
And what's your take on that meeting? What was it about?
It was a political meeting. You see, we are in a democratic country, and people meet. And you see, any political alignment are prompted by situations. So when you see Gideon Moi meeting with other leaders like Kenyatta, Odinga, Kalonzo, those are alignments that will come and go. And I've been saying, one day in politics is a lot of time, because those political alignments may change. You may see them today, tomorrow, in a new formation.
Why was Ruto not invited?
You see, William Ruto, the deputy president, has been on forefront, not supporting the document. So it was obvious that he was not invited, because probably those who are inviting, the proponents probably in one way or another thought that William Ruto is not for the agenda, so probably was not invited.
Okay. Yeah. Could they be forming a probable coalition come 2022?
So if that was a coalition per se, but for me as a political analyst, I don't think that was a coalition, because they are charting a way forward. You see, BBI winning in county doesn't mean it has passed. It has to go to Wananchi. So maybe they were meeting to marshal and see how they can now go to Wananchi to make sure that it passes now in the ground level.
You are an analyst. Your job is to analyze. While you've called that a coalition, who do you think could be the probable kingpin in that meeting?
Post-BBI is when now we will get clear formations coming in, because now the new dynamics of 2022 will come in, and the new alignments according to regions, according to probably tribes will come.
Speaking of Raila, there are claims that he is using the BBI to clinch to the 2022 presidential seat. Is it true?
Yes, to some extent it is true. You see, any other constitutional change in Kenya, you see Kenya has a history of referendum, and it is a political tool. BBI has been a political tool. It has been used as a political tool, as a political vehicle to 2022. It is so difficult. William Ruto is in a dilemma. He cannot come in and oppose the document. He is the deputy president, he is in government. And the key proponent of BBI is Uhuru Kenyatta, who is the president. William Ruto will not come in and oppose the document per se. He may disagree with the document, he may have some reservations, but he cannot come out clearly and oppose the document, because his boss is the leader.
Yeah, and for the person to make the decision of whether BBI will pass or not, as an analyst, do you think Kenyans would vote yes or no to BBI?
That depends on Kenyans. Kenyans will go to the ballot if they decide to vote yes because of the...
How are the numbers? How are the numbers?
I can say BBI may pass. And I will tell you that for a fact. BBI may pass. Yeah.
That's right. That has been Victor Kiprono, a political analyst and youth leader. A takeaway home is that in politics, there is no permanent friend, there is no permanent enemy. However, the only time will tell whether BBI will pass or not come June 2021. I have been Daniel Karaoke.
Thank you, Daniel Karaoke. Indeed, no permanent friend, no permanent enemy. Well, that story with us. We now take a short commercial break. Stay tuned. Continue sending in your feedback to our SMS line 111 444 111 at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Wumbugo. Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. Former U.S. President Donald Trump teases another run for the White House and continues to promote false conspiracy theories that he won the 2020 election in his first address since leaving office at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Orlando, Florida. Trump told conservatives that he was considering running for president again in 2024 as he reasserted dominance over the Republican Party and warned of a struggle for America's very survival. Trump repeated his false claims that he won the election instead of President Joe Biden and hammered establishment Republicans who voted against him in the latest impeachment drama. But while he teased his future plans, he left the crowd guessing about whether he will challenge Biden in a rematch.
Actually, as you know, they just lost the White House, but it's one of those things. But who knows? Who knows? I may even decide to beat them for a third time, okay? You know, they kept saying, he's going to start a brand new party. We have the Republican Party. It's going to unite and be stronger than ever before. I am not starting a new party. That was fake news. Fake news, no. Wouldn't that be brilliant? Let's start a new party and let's divide our vote so that you can never win. No, we're not interested in that. And then a Republican president will make a triumphant return to the White House. And I wonder who that will be. Such a disgrace. We must pass comprehensive election reforms, and we must do it now. The Democrats used the China virus as an excuse to change all of the election rules without the approval of their state legislatures, making it therefore illegal. It had a massive impact on the election.
A rally against attacks on people of Asian descent draws a large crowd to New York's Foley Square. As a rally was being planned, the victim of one of the city's most recent anti-Asian attacks fell into a medically induced coma. The 36-year-old Asian American was stabbed in the back while walking down the street in Chinatown in Lower Manhattan.
We've seen a despicable rise in hate crimes and attacks.
We must redouble our fight. We must stand strong. We must stand together. New York, we love diversity. We know the more of us who are together from every different background and race and creed and color and orientation and gender, the stronger we are.
Anyone who commits an act of hatred against the Asian American community will be found, will be arrested, will be prosecuted. That is what we need. We have to show people we mean business. We have to change how we educate this entire community.
All of us must march in the streets and raise our voices in unison against those who believe in hate. We will not be separated. This is our country. This is the country of immigrants and immigrants who built this country.
Authorities in Guadalupe are preparing for a third wave of COVID-19, opening new beds at Point-a-Pete University Hospital for COVID patients and closing non-essential outlets in its largest shopping centres. The alert threshold for the incidence rate has been reached already, and 44 English variant cases have been confirmed on the French Caribbean island.
Donc en réanimation, 6 de nos 7 lits sont occupés.
Soundbite 1. In resuscitation, 6 of 7 beds are occupied, and in infectious diseases, the 10 beds are occupied. So some exits are planned, but the beds are already reserved for entrants who are in the COVID emergency room. So to relieve the pressure, we'll probably open our COVID emergency room on the lower ground floor, which will free up an area to make more COVID beds for resuscitation.
Pour faire plus de lits Covid pour la réanimation.
Ensuite, on va mettre en place.
We will implement a new protocol on the number of square meters available per person in shops or per person in museums, institutions receiving the public, which are allowed. So it was 4 square meters. It is going to be 8 square meters. So there is going to be less people at a given time in a shop.
Qui sera possible dans un magasin. Et puis la troisième mesure.
The third measure that will probably be the most important is the closure of shopping centers of more than 20,000 square meters. Here in Guadalupe, we have 2 of them, Destreland and Milenis. Only supermarkets, restaurants and pharmacies will remain open inside these shopping centers.
Pharmacie et que les lieux de restauration. Nous avons connu ici en Guadeloupe.
Here in Guadeloupe, unlike on mainland France, we experienced a period during which we had been below the threshold for 20 weeks. So obviously, we've gotten into a habit and we now all want to live a normal life, not to wear his mask, etc. Except that we see that as soon as you have a little bit of slack, as soon as you pay less attention, well, you have an increase in the rates of contagiousness. All the more now as we have the English variant, which is now present here.
On a le variant anglais qui est maintenant présent ici.
Small-scale farmers in the country have filed a petition at the Nairobi High Court against the Kenyan government deal opposing the Economic Partnership Agreement with the UK on small-scale farmers. And let's just take that story from the top. Small-scale farmers in the country have filed a petition at the Nairobi High Court against the Kenyan government deal opposing the economic partnership agreement to the UK on duty-free access of some products from the United Kingdom. The farmers now want the Kenyan government to stop from entering a free trade deal with Britain, citing the post-Brexit trade deal will open the window for British companies to flood the local market with finished and unfinished goods. They also say that the Cabinet Secretary at the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Development is already seeking to have the deal ratified by Parliament without subjecting it to public participation, even though the pact comes with a 7-year-old moratorium. Farmers still feel that this move will lead to flooding of the Kenyan market. Parliament has cleared a bill that seeks to regulate mobile loan rates and treatment of defaulted credit to protect borrowers from predatory lending. Lawmakers last Thursday gave their nod for the review and debate on the proposed law that, if passed, will bring tens of digital and mobile lenders under the watch of the Central Bank of Kenya, CBK. The Central Bank of Kenya Amendment Bill of 2020 is now before the National Assembly Committee on Finance and National Planning, where Kenyans and other stakeholders will be invited to give their views before it is taken back to the House for debate and vote. CBK currently regulates banks and micro-lenders, but the proposed changes will now grant it supervisory and licensing powers to oversee hundreds of digital lenders operating in the country. Tala and Branch, other top players in the mobile digital lending market, offer annualized interest rates of 152.4% and 132% respectively. Konza Technopolis Development Authority, KOTDA, and the Embassy of Israel in Kenya have partnered to host an innovation challenge to address technology-driven needs of the Technopolis. The challenge, dubbed Konza Innovation Challenge, targets innovations in the response to the advancement of Konza Technopolis that will utilize technology to power the city's smart ambitions.
Now we've reached a stage where we've invited innovators with ideas to propose solutions that can actually be applied here at Konza Technopolis as a pilot and later on deployed across the country and probably even beyond.
We have an activity of around 9,500 startups in different stages. We have managed in 2020 to increase in 31% the investment capitals in startups in Israel, raising about $10 billion. We've raised in 20% the amount of deals that was struck with the Israeli startups, again in different stages.
Police dispersed protesters in Amsterdam's Museum Square demonstrating against increased restrictions to stem the spread of coronavirus, including a night curfew. Daniel Karaoke with this story.
A Dutch court upheld an appeal by the government against a lower court's order to scrap a controversial coronavirus curfew, saying the cabinet had not overstepped its brief. The ruling against the case brought by the COVID skeptic group Virus Truth has limited impact as Parliament already pushed through a new law to support the curfew instituted on January 23rd. The phenomena called drinking coffee as a form of protest started in the Netherlands because the country took away the free right of citizens to demonstrate. We have a constitution here in the Netherlands and it is not being adhered to. The constitution is being so neglected that you cannot have any demonstration at all. The introduction of the curfew, the first since Nazi occupation during World War II, led to 3 days of severe rioting across the country in late January. But police clamped down. The hundreds of rioters were arrested. Many have already been sentenced by the Dutch courts. A lower court judge earlier this month said Prime Minister Mark Rutte's government overstepped its authority when it imposed the 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. curfew, based on a law that gives government emergency powers. We are making a statement to the Dutch government, the caretaker cabinet, that we disagree with what is happening here in the Netherlands. Apart from what we see, we have an enormous increase of police violence in the Netherlands, which is used on protesters, and verbal aggression shown every now and then against people who are up until now have been peaceful, and January 17th up to January 24th, they have up themselves to blame that things go out of hand. Earlier this week, Ruto announced that the measure would be extended until at least March 15th, 2 days ahead of the general elections in the country. Cabinet will decide next week whether to further lengthen the curfew beyond March 15th as the country continues to battle the virus, which has now killed more than 15,400 people and infected more than 1 million others.
Hier spreekt de politie. De burgemeester heeft het noodbevel af.
Manchester United lost further ground on Premier League leaders Manchester City after they played out a drab, goalless deadlock with Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side remains second but are now 12 points adrift of the City, while the result left Chelsea